have any money on you?
No. I never do. Do you have any money on you?
Hey.
An American dollar?
An American dollar.
Like $20 Canadian?
Yeah, you gotta keep that one.
Why do you have that?
I don't know.
Anyways, today we're talking about money.
Welcome back to our channel. We're Eric and Sarah, and if you haven't seen us before, we've been traveling for the last year and a half full time, and today we're going to be talking about how to make your money last while you're traveling.
So tip number one that we have for you is to make a budget and to try to keep that budget. We're not necessarily always the best at this, but we do like to really track all of our expenses. We find this is a really helpful way to just know what you're actually spending the most money on and to be able to budget whether you actually have money for another excursion or another country even or another city. So definitely track all of your expenses. We use an app called Spendy, but there's a lot of other ways you can do it too. There's Excel spreadsheets that you can download online. It's really good to have an idea of what kind of money you can spend and how long that'll last you. And the longer you keep track of everything, the more accurate you can be as well, especially if you're long-term traveling. It's really helpful because if you track your expenses for a few weeks, then you kind of have an idea of, in general, what you're spending per day, and you can really budget out, like, how many more months can I do this for?
So, or how many more countries can I go to?
Yeah, exactly.
And our next tip is maybe not the most exciting one, but you should be cooking your own food. Most of the time when you're in other countries, like, it's really tempting to go out and eat, but sometimes it's so expensive, especially if you're going to like European countries. Going out to eat could be upwards of like $30 to $40. Whereas if you go to the local market and you can buy some food, you can live pretty cheaply. And most places have their own kitchens, so you can just bring your food back and make yourself a good meal.
Now, obviously, this depends on the place because there are some places you go to where the street food is just so cheap that it's often not even necessarily saving that much money to cook your own food. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. There's some places we've gone where we just eat lunch or dinner out and it's just so good and so cheap.
Like in Ecuador, it was like $3 for a lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
and I've heard that Southeast Asia is the same. So, but when food is really expensive, we recommend cooking your own food. Tip number 3 is more so if you're traveling long term and maybe are like, oh shoot, I don't want to use all of my savings or I've been using too much of my savings. And there's a couple different ways that you could maybe work more consistently. The first one is using a site called Workaway. This is a volunteer-based site, but essentially it connects you with hotels and hostels and other companies that are looking for volunteers, and in trade they will give you accommodation and usually food. So essentially you'll work for maybe like 4 hours a day. That's kind of the average. And there's all sorts of different things you can do. There's like yoga instructing, working at surf shop, maybe just actually working at the hotel like front booth.
Or like farm stays or
farm
something
stays.
like that.
There's so many different things. And essentially you just work a few hours and then you get a free stay and food. And then you can just travel on the other hours. So
if you don't want to be just doing stays, you can also work for money. So if you're lucky enough to be a digital nomad, you can go on to like Fiverr or Upwork and find yourself a job that you can, you know, work maybe like 10 hours in the week or something like that and make enough money to go around. Depending which countries you're going to, it's going to be a lot cheaper for you to get around. So working 10 hours in a week might even just cover all your costs. So we've met a lot of people on the road doing that.
Yeah.
The next thing that we like to do in order to save money is to use public transit. Now, this totally depends on whether buses are safe or not. We like to use buses at least to be going between cities, and that was definitely the case in South America. But you can also just use apps like Uber and Cabify. They will always bring you like the cheapest type of transportation, if that's a good alternative to, you know, say maybe getting private transport, because often that can be pretty expensive. Now imagine if you're going somewhere, you could be spending $3 to go a 10-minute drive, or you could be spending like $20 depending if you're getting a private transport or not.
Yeah, so we try to avoid taxis and rentals as often as we can. Right. We've only rented once, and that was because we were traveling with other family members and a baby, but otherwise we've exclusively used public transportation, and it definitely saves you a ton of money. Tip number 5 is to get a travel-specific credit card. Now, I feel like we're not really the experts in this because I feel like a lot of long-term travelers are like huge like travel hacking points people.
Yeah.
And for some reason we're just like not really into that. We're getting there. We're really trying to get there, but it's just not really our specialty. But definitely look at a travel credit card that gives a lot of points or perks. We've talked in a previous video about getting lounge passes. You can check that one out here. Look into different credit cards that are available to you and see which one has the best option. And the one thing we do recommend, even more so than the actual perks itself, is finding a credit card that has no foreign transaction fees. So this is essentially when you pay for something in a foreign currency in a country, they don't ding you for it being in a different currency than Canadian dollars or US dollars or wherever
Often
you're from.
if you're paying with like your debit card or something like that, you'll be getting like a 2.5 to 3% charge on everything that you buy, and it might not seem like a lot, but you know, if you're paying whatever, $1,000 in a country, that's still like $30.
Yeah, exactly.
Have, you know?
It adds up fast. And same goes for ATMs as well. Try to get a card that maybe has no ATM fees or transaction fees, or just has no foreign transaction fees, so that when you withdraw cash, you're not getting dinged a huge amount for the conversion rate.
And as usual, even though we have all the tips right here for you, there's often more tips that you have for us. So make sure you put those in the comments. That helps us, that helps other travelers. And it's just a nice way to make this channel kind of a resource for other people as well. So just throw it in the comments if you have other tips for saving money. I know there's a lot out there, and we'd love to hear it.
And now for our bonus tip.
Our bonus tip for today is accommodation discounts. So when you book accommodations, oftentimes if you only book for like 2 or 3 nights, you pay a full price. But if you can find an accommodation that, say, if you book for a week, you will get a solid discount. We've had it before where we actually just paid for 7 full days instead of 6 because it was somehow cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's totally awesome because then you just don't have any rush to get out, even if you just book that extra day.
And another way to get an accommodation discount is you can actually just message your Airbnb host and ask for a discount. This is true often. We've stayed at places that maybe can accommodate 4 or 5 people, but we just want to stay there with 2 people. And we explain this to them, and they often give you a discount for just having 2 people stay there. Or another way you can do this is just booking directly through a place. So you can use sites such as hostelworld.com or booking.com to look for hostels and places to stay. But then we often will look if they have an Instagram or a Facebook to be able to book directly through them, because then you don't have to pay the booking fee. Or even with Airbnb, sometimes we'll book 1 or 2 nights at a place, and then when we arrive, we'll ask them, like, can we pay directly? And then you don't have to pay for any of the extra fees, and you often get a great discount.
This helps you, and it also helps the hotel as well, because then they also will be paying fees on those sites sometimes as well. So
win-win.
And now that you know how to save money while traveling abroad, here is another video on what to do to stay safe while you're traveling.
Make sure you subscribe to our channel because we have a lot more videos coming on travel tips, and like this video if you liked it.
Thanks for watching.
See you in the next one.
I love it.
I love it. No, I love it. No, I love it.